So let me read you a little bit about what Trump wants, what the Republicans want, and apparently what the Democrats want. The White House is insisting that Congress include a payroll tax cut as part of the next coronavirus stimulus package, potentially complicating talks with lawmakers by pushing a measure that President Trump has tried but failed to advance for almost a year. Quote, as he has done since the beginning of this pandemic, President Trump wants to provide relief to hardworking Americans who have been impacted by this virus, and one way of doing that is with a payroll tax holiday. He's called on Congress to pass this before, and he believes it must be part of any Phase 4 package. I don't know. Am I missing something? 51 million people have filed for unemployment? I believe they're not on the payroll anymore, Donald. A payroll tax holiday? I mean, that's good for people that are working, but what about the 51 million people that aren't working? That's like seeing a house burning in front of you and the firefighters going to a house down the block and serving lemonade to people sitting on the patio. Not that lemonade isn't good. A tax holiday, a payroll tax holiday would be nice. I think it's just a diversionary tactic for Trump and the Republicans to rob Social Security, because the payroll tax technically pays for Social Security and Medicare. Of course, it really doesn't, because there's no such thing as taxes paying for these things. I believe in modern monetary theory. We have all the money to pay for all of this. The government prints the money for war. The government prints the money for tax cuts, deregulation, bailouts for banks. The government prints the money for subsidies to the banking industry, the fossil fuels, Big Pharma, Silicon Valley. We got all the money for all these things, but we have been fed this lie about taxes. But I digress. So Trump wants a payroll tax cut, which makes no sense, as I just explained. McConnell is saying he will launch negotiations on the next coronavirus bill next week. So we're 9 days in. We got 9 days. Next week is the 20th. So if they start negotiations on the 20th, the expiration is the 25th. Things usually don't happen that quickly in Washington unless it's for banks. If it's for banks, they could negotiate within 2 days, trillions of dollars. If it's for oil companies, banks, pharmaceutical companies, both parties will do it very, very quickly. But if it's expiration for unemployment, food stamps, you name it, for working people, for now poor people, I don't think they could do it in a week, because they're not going to prioritize doing it in a week. Key Republican senators have been cool to the idea of a payroll tax cut in the past, partly because it only helps workers who are actually employed. I hate to say it, but got to agree with the Republicans. Congress has rebuffed Trump's previous demands for a payroll tax cut for individuals, instead approving a round of checks to individual Americans as part of the $2 trillion CARES Act. But now, as Congress and the administration prepare to write what will likely be the last major coronavirus spending bill, Trump is again demanding a payroll tax cut. He and some allies view the policy as an effective way to stimulate the economy. Quote of Stephen Moore, quote, high-ranking White House officials have told me that they will not sign a Phase 4 deal without a payroll tax cut. Oh, let's listen to Stephen Moore, the same fucking Republican asshole who told George Bush to cut taxes after launching a war, first time in American history. Cut taxes twice, both time for billionaires. Let's listen to Stephen Moore. The payroll tax is 7.65% tax that is taken out of workers' paychecks and goes to fund Social Security and Medicare. Again, that's not true. Lawmakers of both parties have been anticipating the upcoming coronavirus bill will contain a new round of checks to individuals, something Trump has signaled public support for. But it's unclear whether the legislation could include a new round of stimulus checks and a payroll tax cut, especially since McConnell has been aiming to keep the overall price tag at around $1 trillion, a figure Democrats say is much too low. So let's just get down to it and cut the bullshit. First of all, Donald Trump, Republicans, A payroll tax cut? No. That doesn't help the 51 million people unemployed. That doesn't help the people that are still technically employed, but with reduced hours. Democrats, $1 trillion for states, cities, and towns, and local governments. That might sound good, but there's always fine print that the corporate media doesn't cover. Listen, I've been around the block. I've been to now probably 40 states in the last 5 years. I've covered a lot of cities. I've covered a lot of towns. When money gets earmarked for states, cities, and towns, guess what? A lot of that money tends to get diverted to the real estate developers, to foundations, to donors. So you think the money might be going to keep the teachers on the books. You think the money might be going to keep the firefighters, the police, the sanitation workers on the books. But somehow that money always seems to get funneled to a bunch of different places. So $1 trillion to states, cities, and towns might sound good. That's not what should be the signature of the next package. $1,200 check? No. And you might be saying, Jordan, don't shoot yourself in the foot. I'm not going to reject a $1,200 check. You know what? Be mad at him all you want. Be mad at Bernie. A lot of people are. But didn't Bernie tell us? Didn't Bernie, if he did one thing that will last, say, no, don't start accepting half a loaf. Demand the whole f***ing loaf. Excuse my French. $1,200 check? Okay, so then we could do all of this over in 3 months? $1,200 check in New York City might buy you a 6-pack of almond milk. Okay? Just keeping it real. Almond milk's very expensive. California, what's $1,200 going to do for you? Chicago? Philadelphia? Denver? A lot of other places? Your rent might be more than $1,200. $1,200, it's going to go to you. It's going to be out the door within a minute. And then you got to figure out what comes next. So another one-time check, we cannot accept any more Band-Aids for a deep gunshot wound. No payroll tax cut. The problem isn't the people currently working. They don't need a tax cut. It's the 51 billion people who have filed for unemployment. I hear nothing about tens of millions of people who have lost their health care, which suddenly Joy Reid has seen the light. Wait for that one. Joy Reid, the original Bernie bro, or Bernie bro pusher. He's not a Democrat. Now she's pro-Medicare for all. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Bernie's out. No threat to the plutocracy. Well, maybe Medicare for all is a good idea. People, frankly, need to organize and fast. And even though it can't be in person for safety reasons, I'm saying if they offer you another sandwich of a $1,200 check, reduced unemployment, which is probably what it's going to be, I think you're lucky if you get $200 expanded on health insurance. It's $600 now. I would be very surprised if Republicans agreed to an expanded $200 unemployment, which the Democrats have no leverage because Nancy drove the getaway car when Republicans robbed the Treasury in the first bill. They could have not got $4 to $6 trillion for their donors if Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer didn't go along with it. Right there. She drove the getaway car. So are we just going to accept being run over by the oligarchy? Are we just going to accept millions of people being evicted from their homes? Kamala Harris comes out today with a bill that ban evictions and foreclosures for a year, bar utilities from cutting off access to power, water, or gas, prohibit landlords from raising tenants' rent, prevent negative credit reporting during economic downturn. I wonder why she's coming out with this bill right now. Any ideas? It's a good bill. Credit to her. Credit where credit is due. But isn't it always interesting when these legislators come out with these bills? A, when they know it could never get passed, so they're just basically virtue signaling, pretending that they're for these things with no real political downside. She knows this isn't getting through because all of their top money men and donors are developers, real estate, the landlords of America. But, hey, she put it on paper, credit to her. But right now, there is no national ban on evictions and foreclosures. It is expiring now. I am already seeing on Reddit where you actually could get a lot of good information. People being dragged to housing courts. You want to go to a housing court during a pandemic? Could you afford the lawyer? Because I'll tell you who has more money. The landlords and the real estate companies, not you. Where is Nancy Pelosi? Yeah, Republicans are awful, but I thought the Democrats are the party of the people. I'm kidding, of course. Where is? Let me say it. Where is? Demands in front of cameras, organizing people, even if it has to be online, for a immediate universal basic income. It expires when medical professionals say we are out of the woods and it is safe for people to go back to work, full stop, and it is safe to hire people back. We don't need unemployment that expires in the next 3 months down the road. We don't need another $1,200 check. You bailed out the banks with no strings attached in 2008 in 2 days. No strings attached. Why are so many strings attached when it comes to rescuing working people? Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.